Well, we're going to talk a bit about workforce and the economy and what we look for when we want workers. So I guess I'll throw this out, and whoever wants to jump at it first. How difficult is it to find employees in the Victor Valley?
Actually, it's been really easy for us because we worked with you at the college, setting together a solar initiative program. So it's been very nice. We 90% of our installation crew comes from there, and our drafters come from there. So we've done really well. We have a lot of the employees that come from that college course have actually moved up, and we just hire within, just bring them up to the next level. We got project managers. We got every position has been filled. So it's been a great opportunity for us.
Great. One of the Scots.
So we have had no problem at all. Every requisition that I put online, I've got probably 50 to 60 people putting in for those jobs. So the supply of labor has been absolutely phenomenal.
Sure.
Give me 1 second. I'm going to switch seats because I feel like I can't.
Okay. I'm running them off.
And my answer would be depending on what we're hiring for. My answer is somewhat anecdotal, but for the 7 dealerships in the auto park, and then probably the 25 local in my brand that we talk to, certain jobs, easy to hire. Other jobs, extremely difficult to hire, and they're extremely difficult to hire not just here, they're extremely difficult to hire in California that I know, and I would guess they're hard nationally because of the way the labor force is changing. We have a real hard time, especially with millennials, for commission jobs, for supervisory jobs, for jobs that are in excess of 50 hours a week. But when we're hiring hourly, boy, the applicants come through the door left and right, and we're getting extremely qualified people in that hourly space. But it is, I mean, we're understaffed now, and everyone I talk to is understaffed in those same positions when we're talking about commissionable and or management positions.
Yeah. Well, what seems to be the hurdle that you have to overcome to fill these employment gaps?
So we have no applicants. When I was in college, I was an economics major, and I remember my supply and demand of labor graph, and I'd say, well, you know, I'm the supply of labor, and you know, or I'm the demand of labor, and they're the supply, whatever. It's backwards now. I mean, getting them to want to work for us in these positions it's almost impossible. I'm having to rethink the entire strategy in certain portions of our company, and it's happening across the auto park where we're thinking about turning traditional 50, 55-hour-a-week jobs that were very well paying into hourly jobs and cutting them into 30, 35-hour-a-week jobs. And it's not traditional in our industry, and it's going to be a challenge because that's just not the way we've ever looked at those jobs. Specifically, you know, service writers, service managers, you know, sales managers, things like that, where we were used to, hey, give us an extra 10 hours a week and you're going to make a lot more money. They're saying, I don't want extra money and I want to work 10 hours less a week. So it's a challenge.
Okay, great. Well, going back over here, what do you look for when you look for an employee? What are the qualities you look for?
Really, on the chart earlier that it said it's attitude. We do several interviews to really find out, you know, the attitude of the person, because it's going to be important for who they work with. In our industry, they, you know, these guys are working on roofs. It's a pretty dangerous job, so it's very imperative that they get along and that they have good character, and yeah, somebody could be off the roof real quick if not. But ultimately, you know, good character and, you know, skill set is important too. You know, you got to make sure that they have the proper skill set.
Scott?
So we've kind of migrated more to what's called a physical abilities test. where folks have to perform at a minimum expectation because our jobs are so physical. At that point, if we've got someone that we feel is going to be able to physically meet the demands of the job, we feel like that's enough. And then at that point, we've got a very strong culture with the company. People are rejected. They kind of reject themselves if they don't have that great attitude that you're talking about. So truly, we just need folks that are going to be able to come in and perform at a very physical job, and then from there, we'll take care of the rest of it.
We saw on the survey earlier that the soft skills and attitude rated pretty high. Is this something that you're equipped with internally to address? Are you equipped to train people to improve their attitude and work ethic and soft skills?
So, yes. I guess the way I look at it is I'm responsible for the weather of that building, which is really hard sometimes. But the attitude that is portrayed out of the general manager's office is going to obviously cascade down, and eventually people are going to understand. And I kind of look at it like the New England Patriots, the Patriot way. You're going to establish what the guidelines are. You're going to establish how people are treated, and ultimately people are going to have to conform to that. So I think you can instill soft skills. I'll tell you the one struggle that we have, and that is attendance. It is truly a come to work if you want to mentality, unfortunately. It is an entitlement. There are a lot of people who use the government benefits that are out there that are afforded to them, and at the end of the day, that makes it a real struggle to be able to consistently staff the building. So that is that's our biggest struggle. If I had folks come to work on a daily basis, wow, I could probably not have 60 of them at this point out of the 900. So that's really our struggle there.
Dr. Wagner, I know the Auto Park's working with you to grow our own employment base, but I'm often having these discussions. I think I was just having one with Jimmy earlier, am I crazy or is the consciousness changing though? What are we gonna have to do as employers? Because the attitude is, tell me why I should work for you. At some point, as the employers, we cannot continue to have that attitude like, I don't know actually how to deal with it, but I'm slowly coming to this recognition that the consciousness is changing among the labor force, and we're going deeper and deeper into the education system to say, okay, maybe a service writer program we're working on with VVC right now, because we can't find a service writer within 500 miles, is they're teaching them soft skills at college. That's what your parents used to teach you, but now they're teaching that in school, your soft skills. Thank you, please. And then they say, well, he's saying, well, I'd like to get involved at 9th grade and talk to kids about it, please and thank you, and make them service writers. And it's a difficult transition for me, because when I was in 9th grade, it was, hey, we teach you what's on the board. Your parents tell you to say please and thank you, and if your curveball doesn't curve, then you go to work in sales. That's why I'm here. Right? You dream big. And now we have to teach them at a very young age, you're going to be, this is what you're going to do. It's intense.
Well, as an employer, how much do you expect the employee to be work ready when you get them versus how much you're willing to commit to on-the-job training?
But see, please and thank you is like, that's intense. That's work readiness. That should be like human readiness. Technically we can do some of that training, but I heard an interesting comment is can you teach someone compassion, kindness, empathy? Can you teach that? Can you teach someone to pick the wrapper up off the floor? Or should you? Or should you just skip on that and find someone that already has that instilled in them, and then we'll teach the technical skills?
I think, again, I keep on going back to your course at the college is really nice for us, because I have my own installers that go there to help teach the course. So they work with them throughout the whole period of the time. So when the employee comes to interview, I've got a very good idea of who this employee is, how he works, the please and thanks he uses, and so we get to hand select the cream of the crop, so to speak. And that's an extremely nice thing, because, when you see them coming in and day out, are they showing up to school on time? This is a complete volunteer course, If they can make it to that on time every day, and what's their attitude throughout the day, I mean, they're out in the hot heat, and we got 180 degrees. No, but it's extremely hot out here. You know, so you really get to see the character of that individual, and that's a beautiful thing for us, because when my manager comes back to me and explains to me, these are the 3 or 4 guys that I think we should actually grab, and we've taken them on, and they're dynamic employees only because we've had that. You know, everybody puts on their best face when they come in to interview. Everybody is the greatest thing ever, and then you find out a week later, you're not anything like you said you were. You know, and we get through all that stuff. It's really nice.
Well, what do you see, looking back maybe 5 years, what do you see as what's changed in the workforce and what you have to look for in attracting employees?
What I'm noticing is you have got to make an individual connection with your employees now. You've got to get to know them on an individual basis. You've got to understand what makes them tick, what they like to do outside of work. If you don't make that connection, ultimately those folks are eventually going to move on, or they're not going to be a quality employee for you. So we spend a lot of time just out and about trying to talk to 900 people and getting to know them on a personal level. You know, what do your kids like to do? You know, where does your wife work? Those types of things, because ultimately that connection is what's going to make them good at their job and keep them. And retention is so important.
Okay. Anyone else?
We're finding that more of our employees are motivated by fear of loss than they are by gain. And that's just flat out the way it is. I like to call it the bachelor phenomenon around our work. It's like they don't want to get voted off. So they would rather have a steady situation, and they'll value that job more, a steady paycheck, than they will an opportunity to earn X number of more dollars, because it's almost too far removed. So it's this, and maybe that's from the Great Recession, but it's this margin of safety that if they have a really good, solid, and they know where their base is, those are my most qualified employees right now.
And I would have to second Scott. I think it's getting involved with the employees, know who they are, know what makes them tick. I'm impressed, 900 employees. That's awesome. Good job. Because, you know, we have around 40 or so, and it's hard to do that. You know, I try and get involved, and I know everything about every one of them. You know, everything, but I know where they're at as far as what their attitude is, work, how we are doing as a company, and everything. I try and figure that out with each individual employee, and it's good. It really works, and it's tough. Yeah, like he said. I mean, 900. Good job, man.
Yeah. So I don't know all 900. I just want to clarify that. I do show up at Walmart, see someone, they're shopping, and I'm like, "How are you?" Because I don't know 900 names. Yeah.
I'm disappointed. You had me for a while.
Yeah. Full transparency.
You know, several years ago, I read a book, and probably many of you have, called Managing by Walking Around. It sounds a little bit like that's still in vogue. Yes, and has value. Yep. So being on the floor, meeting people, get to know them. Great. And maybe you've touched on this already, but what are you doing to capitalize on the changes in the workforce? Now, it almost sounds like I ought to turn the question around. How are you trying to mitigate the changes in the workforce? Maybe might be a better way of putting it. Where you have employees, it sounds like you're saying that the employees come here just to get to a certain level, and then they don't have an aspiration to move beyond. So what are you doing, or what should we be doing collectively to change that outlook and try to find out what motivates our employees to move above and beyond minimum?
So about 70 to 75% of my salaried managers, I've got 60 out there, they started out throwing boxes. So they've actually been promoted up to area managers, operations managers. And what we've noticed we've had to do is we have a very strong mentoring program. So we go out and we try to identify people that have soft skills, have leadership skills, where people just seem to migrate to that person, and they don't have any authority, they have influence. And that's the type of leadership that we like. But at the end of the day, we don't have nearly as many people that want to step into those roles as we did, so we've got to do a better job of identifying it and then ultimately selling it. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to get into a management role, a salaried management role with Walmart, you are going to be working some hours. There's just no doubt about it in a retail industry like this. So it's definitely harder to find them. When we do find them, though, I feel like we've got to prepare them, mentor them, and get them ready for that next level.
I want to make a clarification that these people that say, I want this, are extremely qualified. They are not unqualified in any range. It's a lot of time it's a dual income household. They said, it'd be really nice if I had X. But we already have Y over here, so I don't need Y and Y. I want to be there for kids' baseball games. It's a priority shift. And frankly, I haven't gotten my head around it. My father's way, the way I was raised was, you're here. This is where you are. You're on the B shift. I said, when does the B shift start? He says, just be here. Be here in the morning, be here at night. That's the B shift. That's very common in our industry. So I'm getting my head around it because these people are highly qualified. They just have different priorities. And so that's where I say there's this push and pull with who's going to change.
You do have to be sensitive to people who want to attend their kids' baseball games. You've got to be flexible, because if you're not, they will leave you. They will absolutely leave you, even though you are probably the best job in the high desert. From a labor standpoint like us, they will leave you because they want to be with their families when they want to be with their families, which makes it very difficult from a corporate standpoint because, of course, we have legally structured policies and procedures, and we are constantly trying to maneuver those to accommodate our employees' needs.
What kind of resources do you try to access to address these challenges you face?
So my biggest challenge is maintenance. Maintenance used to be folks that went out with a wrench and they'd go out there and turn on the nuts and the bolts, and all of a sudden things would start working again. That's not the way it works anymore. You have got to have definitely a mechanical background, but there's also a systems background that an individual has to be successful these days, just with how complex our systems are at the distribution center. So we've actually partnered with San Joaquin Valley College. They have provided us probably 5 or 6 maintenance mechanics because they have a program that's very much tailored to the competency tests that they have to pass to be considered for a job at Walmart. So we've really built a great relationship with them, and they've produced some very good talent for us.
We're using VVC. The auto park has we have 10 interns, mechanics coming out of that program. They're being trained there. They're being trained affordably for them, which is important because there's some schools that are not affordable for technicians in the automotive business. We're starting a service writer program there. We're growing our own minor leagues, we call it, where we have this intern, and maybe they don't have such an expectation right now, and we can afford to take a free look for a while. Then we can bring them up slowly through the ranks because it's just not out there. You're not going to just pick and choose an employee off the list. They're not just going to walk in ready.
And I second that. The college course, it's nice because you can. I don't know. For me, with the course that we have designed, I get to tailor it to my needs, so like I'm going to meet with Tony Bonato next week. I got some ideas that I want to throw past him to add to it to help to make the employees that are coming out of there stronger. It's a great source. The Victor Valley College, it's right here locally. We do a lot of the business here locally, so it works out perfect. And then we referral with our employees too. We encourage them, we go to them first if they know somebody that could fit within, because they already know how we work, how hard it is to work, and if they have an idea of somebody that could work with us, we go with them too.
Well, I don't mean to turn this into a marketing thing, but since we talked about the college a bit here, have you been surprised at the resources the college has to try to help you develop your workforce? Or or you always known it was there? And
I'm not as surprised at the resource. I knew the college was amazing. What I'm surprised at is the assets you have in that student body that we had never seen. I know I mentioned that in the Link magazine, but it's true. When those interns came to interview, we said, why aren't these people interviewing with us? Why are we never seeing this person? And that's what really blew us away. All 7 dealers shared that sentiment. Why is this guy never walking in our door to apply?
I was very surprised. I didn't know. It was great to learn. I think it's been like close to 4 years, 3 years that we've been developing, and now 2 years of actually hiring from there. So when I first was approached, or actually by Tony Malone, it was a work in progress to get it up and going. James helped us a lot, but once it was up and going, it's been great. Yeah.
okay, it was mentioned here earlier, specifically, come to work when you're supposed to come to work is kind of an issue. So who do you look to correct that, and whose responsibility is it? And is it a trainable skill, if you will?
Yeah.
So, is it a trainable skill? You talked about fear. Unfortunately, I think it takes people to fear losing their job, and we work through a step progression. And for some reason, when someone hits a step 3 right before they are asked to get promoted to customer, we at that point see a remarkable change in their attendance. It is amazing. So, but I'll tell you, one thing we started doing last week, just crazy. You know, because I continue, like Fridays are just horrible. And my management team will come in and, hey, we only unloaded 150 trailers and, you know, we didn't get enough done. And I said, guys, what? Have you asked them to come to work? And they looked at me and went. So I said, why don't you go out, figure out who your biggest violators are, and go have a conversation with the person and explain to them what they are doing to the other team members, how much work these people are having to pick up, and how much we miss them when they're not here. You know what happened last Friday? I had the best attendance I've had in about 7 years just by going up and making the connection with them. So we're doing that again this Friday. We're going to see if it was a one-hit wonder, but that's where I think things have changed so much is you can't address a group anymore. You just can't do it. First of all, I don't think you're talking to them, but at the end of the day, these folks expect to have a personal relationship with their manager or supervisor, and you've got to provide that. And I think when you do, things start to look normal again. It just takes a lot more work than it used to.
Yeah, I think where we've been successful is in their evaluations, the employee evaluations. You know, it's imperative to educate the employee on how they're doing, because it's amazing how far off they are. They think they're doing so great in reality. So it's good reality checks to show them, look, and then you put together the structure of how they need to get to where we want them to be. And it's up to us to, you know, respond and follow up and make sure that they're doing that. And, you know, unfortunately, proper discipline to go along with it if they're not, you know. That's key.
Okay, as leaders and employers, what are you doing differently than you did 5 years ago, 10 years ago to manage your workforce? Are you leading differently now than you did 5 years ago?
There's 2 things that are specifically different that I specifically did different in the last 5 years. One is flatten the management scale, partly by necessity, partly because that's where they're at. I mean, that's where the workers are at. I mean, they call me DG. That's what they call me. I mean, they don't say Mr. Greiner this, Mr. Greiner that. That's where they're at, is they want to be on the level. And I think the most successful companies in the nation, internationally, have flattened management structures, where I think that's helpful. The second thing I did is I put minimum acceptable quality standards on almost every job because the fear of loss became so important. 5 years, 8 years, definitely 10 years ago, what you did to motivate somebody, say, look how much you can make, man. And they'd just be, you get them all frothy and they're going for it. But now it's like, if you do under this, I have to fire you. And that it's brought the average up by 25% per person. So those are the two things.
So we have had to create a more casual work environment. And I know you're like it's a warehouse, Scott. What were you guys all in ties? No, but you had a management team that was showing up in a button-down shirt and khakis because that was what was established back in the 80s and into the 90s. And that's not what works today. What works today is I've got a T-shirt on with a pair, not me, I actually still have to unfortunately dress up a little bit. But even my assistant general manager will come to work in a pair of shorts and a collared shirt because he's out on the floor pushing a broom all day. Because at the end of the day, we work with our associates, they don't work for us. And if we don't have that mentality, that's what's changed so drastically. We work together, the flattened management, absolutely. People say, Mr. Kubicek, and I said, where is my dad? Because I'm not Mr. Kubicek, I'm Scott. I've been Scott for 21 years with Walmart because that's what the culture is, because that's what makes it successful in terms of having that environment.
I have one other suggestion. If people do struggle with how to relate to them, if you can make it about something more than just the job, just the paycheck, but make it about a theme. That has been somewhat successful that with this kind of workforce now is to create a cause. And sometimes it's not as easy as you'd think, but to create a cause that they can tie into so that they feel there's more worth there than just monetary compensation or the company's success. But that's something we've worked on.
What resources do you wish you had available to you that you don't to help you develop your workforce?
So it'd be great if we could set up a college course to teach common sense. No, but seriously, it would be great for me. That's what I was going to talk to Tony next week about, is more safety get involved, because that's what I'm having challenges with. Mike Nutter's helping us considerably with that as far as, just employees they just don't use their brain sometimes, like putting a ladder in mud, climbing on the roof. That doesn't work. But, that's, for me, that's what I would, more safety course through this college.
I wish, if I had the resources, what I would do is I wish that each one of them could have more individualized personal development with getting out what their goals are, goal setting, reaching their goals, and tying what we do at work to what they ultimately want to achieve. I try to do a lot of that, but it doesn't work with 65 people every day, and we're open 7 days a week. But if I had the resources, that's something I'd like them all to be involved in, to see past it and see how it applies to their own personal goals, because I think that you get the most out of them with that.
Scott?
I'm racking my brain. I don't know. It's probably just that it's been ingrained in me over 21 years. I don't feel like I need anything. I feel like I honestly, with what Walmart provides to us, we're going to make it happen. The one thing, like I did say, the maintenance, that's the hardest one. So if we could get a second maintenance class going to provide us with even more resources, because that's something I can't teach them. That's something, thank goodness, I've got some really smart people that understand those computers and all that stuff. So,
if there were a program, we'll make up a title, workforce ethics. Would you invest in a program like that with your employees?
if it included coming to work, yes.
Yes. Yes. Session 1, come to work.
What would be in that? Would it be theory? Would it be practical? What would it look like?
Well, I think it would have to be theory for the most part. There might be a practical element to it. But I'm thinking in terms of all the things that I hear here, outside of we need more maintenance workers, it's by and large soft skills. Can I get along with my boss? Can I, as a boss, motivate my employee? Can I, as an employee, get along with my coworker? If there were programs that could strengthen your workforce in those areas, would that be of interest to you?
Especially if you're talking communications cycles and communication skills, how to get along with that customer, how to, I mean, more than ethical customer service and communication cycles would be very helpful. Understanding what to say and when to say it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And if, as you said earlier, the key thing too is entitlement issues that we deal with now. You know, for the younger group, you know, educating them, teaching them that the job is it's really a blessing to them. You know, and just changing that attitude. If you could figure out some way of doing that, that'd be great. We're all over it.
I think that's where we're going to have to change. I really do. I mean, I think we have to change because that's the consciousness. That's the way it's going. And I don't know. I don't know if we're going to be able to say, hey, you change with us. That's what I struggle with every day is trying to figure that out.
Yep.
Well, I'm not saying we have such a course, but we'll look into that. There are times and opportunities where colleges and schools are put in a position where we need to rethink what we're teaching and how we embed these things in the courses without students even knowing they're learning it. Because you wouldn't get a student to enroll in a course that said how to get along with my coworker, you know. But if you can embed those skills in the courses, then that's certainly important for us to know. The final question that I would have for you is, I've heard the word entitlement almost universally up here.
I think
What's put us in this position? How do we undo that?
but I want to separate myself on that because I don't see it that way. I don't see it like they're wrong and we're right. I see it as this is a trajectory, and I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm not certain that we absolutely need to, or maybe we need to. I mean, things swing from generation to generation, but I'm not sure it's something to battle as much as to use in our favor.
How would you use it in your favor? I mean,
Well, it sounds like you both are kind of doing it, where they say, hey, this is my spot, and we're all saying, it is your spot as long as you do this, this, and this to keep it. And I think that that's the way the communication might change. Instead of saying, no, it isn't, it may never be your spot, and then they just leave. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think we have to tie it into what their personal goals are. I mean, this idea that forever we're going to have people that want to come to work because they have to come to work, that's a new phenomenon. It's 300 years where they have to come to work for you. They don't have a house where they have a farm and they have everything they need. I mean, I think we have to be very, very considerate about how we're going to go forward from there. Maybe not change it, but work with it.
Scott?
I guess at the end of the day, I think we have to, I don't want to say this, I'm not going to embrace it, but I am going to realize that I am smack dab in the middle of it. Yeah. And like I said, I'm not going to stand around waiting and feeling sorry for us and saying, well, woe is us, we're not going to be able to unload too many trailers today because people aren't coming to work. We've got to do unique things. And that's, I think, what the theme is with what we're in right now, is you can't just sit back and try to say, hey, what's worked in the past is going to work now. You've got to get creative as an employer to figure out how to get people connected. When they're connected, they will come along. When they are disconnected, they will do what they want, and that's when the entitlement mentality is very prevalent.
I think working with the employees, as you said earlier, it's key, but you gotta, it's up to us to educate them on how, I guess, I'm not gonna, I don't know that I would bend on that either. It's more of just working with the employees and educating them, and as I said earlier, through evaluations, you can teach them, I believe, to, have the skills.
Well, I want to thank the panel. I ask all of you to help me in thanking them. It's been a great discussion. Thank you very much.